on a matter that is complex. Board of Governors, which was represented by all the teams of the Premier Division and the Great Africa Championship, because of the magnitude and the seriousness of the matter, which the Board of Governors resolved today, that the NSL values the lives of our people. We view the health and safety of our players, staff, and stakeholders as paramount. Whilst our intention is to complete the season by no later than the 30th of June 2020, but because of the existing uncertainties in our country, we shall remain flexible. The Board of Governors has mandated the Executive Committee, assisted by the appointed task team, to take all possible measures to ensure that the NSL's league resume in compliance with the directives issued by the State President, with the support and alignment with the national government. This follows the meeting that was held today and yesterday with the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, and further consultation will be held at this Board of Governors meeting with the Ministers of Health and Safety and Security. At this point in time, as a Board of Governors, we endeavor to make sure that the compliance issue are complied with as a matter of urgency. Thereafter, the Executive Committee will report to the Board of Governors for the league to resume. Thank you.
Chairman, Police from Sport. It looks or sounds like quite a straightforward issue that was taken today. Was there or were there any other opinions from the floor that maybe the matches can go on at this point, or was it a decision that all of the people who are in the room agreed with that let's go forward, let's not go forward with the league, let's just keep it suspended as it is?
Firstly, let's agree that the league was suspended because of the directive by the President that we must reassess the situation. In that directive, there were certain conditionalities. Critical among all was the issue of 100 persons limit, which required the Executive Committee to do everything possible to make sure that we comply. We engage with stakeholder management, we engage the Ministers of Safety and Security, Minister of Health, Minister of Sport, to make sure that we understand. Obviously, it culminated in the meeting of all the stakeholders, where the issue was resolved in terms of what is the requirement to comply with the directive of the State President on the state 100 persons limit. That in itself, give an indication that all clear, because we suspended our program because of the State President directive. And the question was, do we comply? And the meeting said, we comply in terms of the requirements dictated by the President that we can do a business if a 100-member limit is taken into account, which we have complied with. Today, we had the privilege of engaging the Department of Health with the Deputy Minister present, and also the General from the Risk Categorization Department of the SAPS to give us insight. More importantly, we know that yesterday the regulations were gazetted, which we have appointed a task team to deal with those issues in the regulations to make sure that we align them with all the necessary compliance. And thereafter, the Executive Committee will make sure that the decision is taken with the consultation with the Board of Governors by round robin or agent meeting of the Board of Governors to move ahead.
Dr. Khoza, Sir Supersede from China Global TV Network. In terms of the financial impact this will bring to the league, have you anticipated a potential number or how it could sort of affect you going forward should you not resume the league anytime soon?
Well, the unfortunate part, we are a business. We are affected by all other businesses. And we could not quantify the issue of the money at this point. The important thing was to deal with the issues of safety. Because what is happening to the country is no benchmark. Therefore, it's very important to think about that first, to say how best can we protect ourselves before even thinking about the consequences of the losses that we might suffer. Because if that virus is so strong as it is indicating in the other parts of the world, we were not there to enjoy the benefits of what we were hoping to protect. If those will be the result, not the objective. The objective is now how we stay healthy, how the players stay healthy, how the service providers stay healthy in terms of the broadcasters and the radio people who will be part of this 100 limitation, to make sure that we take into account that any other thing will be the issue of the result, because looking at the situation, and if we are not acting responsibly, the economy can collapse. So where are you going to do business if there's no human capital? So the important thing now is to concentrate on the human capital to make sure that we do our bit, and that's why the Board of Governors also concluded that they're going to be part of the social messaging in assisting the government to strengthen the share of the voice, that this message is conveyed to all nooks and crannies because of the influence by the players, by the coaches, by the executive members, the chairman of clubs, to make sure that accentuate the issues of these medical agencies and the health issues that must be conveyed to the people, make it business as usual. So that must be part of us, of our DNA, of our culture, to make sure that we minimize and make sure that the crowd does not go at a level where it's going to be uncontrollable.
From the Citizen newspaper. So just to get some clarity, there's obviously no games this week and this weekend. The games are set to resume on April 4th. I mean, do you anticipate anything possibly happening on April 4th, or is it definitely off for the foreseeable future?
We don't know that the games are going to resume on the 4th of April. But for now, in so far as we are doing, we want to understand the regulations and comply, because we're dealing with human lives. The clubs are exposed to consequences if we don't take the necessary steps. And that's why we're working in cahoots in conjunction with the Department of Health to make sure that we must not make the clubs vulnerable to any kind of claims, because this is a business unusual. So therefore we must take proper steps, because this is not only happening to us, happening to all of the workforce. Don't forget, don't see us as football people. We are see us as employees and employers. We are part of corporate, we are part of businesses, 32 businesses sitting here. So what is affecting us, affecting the rest of the business in the country. So the collective understanding is to make sure that we strengthen the voice of the government and make sure that all things are done properly. Hence our strength with the share of the voice, to make sure that we assist the government in making sure that people comply with the requirements of the habit of keeping safe by washing hands, avoiding handshaking, all manner of things that the government has asked us to do, to make sure that we minimize some of these things that are a threat to this country and its people. The last one.
Chairman from Newsroom Africa. Just now, your message to the footballing fans of South Africa who watch the PSL, whether it be all the competitions that you have. What's your message to them now?
I think as a PSL, we are cognizant of the role we play in this country. That the PSL is responsible for the happiness index of this country. We are responsible for generating debate, discussion in this country. We give a feel-good factor, which is the only vehicle in this country that provides a feel-good factor. But more importantly, with what is happening at the moment, every channel you open, you talk about coronavirus. That affects the mental state of everybody. I think, if this process, returns to normal, in an abnormal situation, it might assist in the wellness of our people. That whilst we are dealing with the difficult issues, in Sotho and Zulu, but noma kufika kuyahlekwa. There must be that part of it as a toner of this threat that is unknown. So therefore, it's going to be very important for us to do everything possible to make sure that we bring back the pastime of our people, the lifestyle of our people. Obviously, it's not at the cost of human life. That's why we are taking precautions on the health requirements that have been put in place to make sure that we don't, increase, the propensity of the exposure to affect lives, but to minimize, because we can't know, because if there was a pointer to say condomize, you know what you're avoiding by condomizing. On this one, you don't know whether you must move left or must move right or go short or whatever. We don't know. So it's a thing that is unknown to everybody. But to the supporters, I know it's hard, it's tough, but for us also, the players, it's also tough, because, like a soldier, when you go to war, you might not come back. So that's the risk we're all facing in the country, that when you go to work, all of us sitting here, we're exposed but not come back. So now it also helps us to be empathetic, sympathetic with everybody that goes to the line of duty, to the line of fire, that you must appreciate the sacrifices and the selflessness. So we're saying that to the supporters, as much as we know that they're the lifeblood of our industry, but at the same time it's important that the people that make them happy, we think carefully about how best to cushion them. Not only us, the whole industry, whole corporate in South Africa, because this matter is not only a matter of football, it's a matter of corporate South Africa, but also to make sure that they must understand that whatever we do, we don't want to make actions that are going to be recessionary in their outcome, and make sure that we do things that when you come back, we bounce back in an environment that is conducive. But for now, it's an abnormal situation. That's why we've got to make sure that we adapt at abnormal circumstances, to be cautious the best we can, and make sure that we give them the excitement they deserve. Hopefully, hope to conclude the league before the 30th of June. But like we say, consciously, that the situation is uncertain and we're flexible, that anything can happen anytime. We might call it off, if the situation arises, that we must reconsider the position of the PSL.